Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start with a warm-up story in which the new management changed the rules not in their favor. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You have to pay for that. So I was talking to a friend about my days working at the Golden Arches and remembered this. Now, I was hired when I was 18, older than the usual crew, but could work the overnight, 10 or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. On these shifts, there's usually only a kitchen crew member, me, and a manager on with a service staffer only sometimes. These shifts were a little unpredictable and could go from dead quiet for hours, then 2 cars at once want 80 McNuggets and like 6 quarter-pounders each, or large sporadic rushes, particularly on Friday or Saturday nights around 2 to 3 a.m. Now, most managers were pretty chill, let me listen to my music and eat on shift rather than take a solid break, as that left them to take, cook, and serve the orders alone. They didn't make me pay for it, as I was doing them a favor by gradually taking my meal break while still working. A new manager, I'll call her Dumb Nugget, came on board and decided that they were going to be a stickler for the rules and explicitly told me that if I didn't pay for food that I was stealing and that they would issue me a warning. So the first day with them, I paid but took a break and sat down with the food I bought, only for a big order to come through and them to demand my help before releasing me back to my break. Managers at my store had 5 overnights in a row, then several days off, so I had Dumb Nugget the following night, and the shift went as normal till 2:30 when I took my break. I cooked a McChicken, they yelled out to make sure I put it through and paid for it, and to leave the receipt on the counter. They were counting stock or something about and didn't trust me. Anyways, did that and sat down in the dining section to eat when sure enough we got 8 cars in the drive-thru full of drunk, hungry people. Cue malicious compliance. They're putting through the orders to the kitchen and I just sit and watch the screen fill up and go over the page nibbling on my food, enjoying not being on my feet, when they come screaming at me, "Why aren't you making the orders? This car's been waiting over 5 minutes and nothing's ready." I just replied that I was on my break and I wasn't on the clock and didn't need to make the orders. They yelled some more about how I was being rude and that I should be working and helping the store, aka them, as I was making the store, them, look bad to the customers for having to wait. I just said something like, "Well, don't have them wait any longer," and went back to get my burger. Did this the rest of the overnights we had together, and they got madder each time, getting stuck doing it all by themselves. It was quite entertaining. Now, while I did enjoy their own sticking to the rules causing them trouble, after Dumb Nugget was done with their overnights and I was working with some of the chill dudes, I told them how they're going to want to give Dumb Nugget the what's up as to staff food on shift, or all their overnights are going to suck. Apparently they talked to them because next time with them, they didn't make me pay and things were a lot smoother for them from there on out. And our next story. Try telling a queer scientist that he has no choice. My husband, Jeff, is naturally a better decorator than many professional designers that have their own shows. Years ago, when we lived in an apartment complex, the rental office staff became aware of how beautifully he decorated his apartment. It really was award-winning, literally. Anyway, the apartment manager notified Jeff that his apartment was to be the model going forward. Jeff was not happy with this development. Strangers moving through his personal areas, going through his things, possibly stealing things? Unacceptable. The apartment manager was quick to mention that this was part of Jeff's lease. Suddenly, an idea occurred to Jeff. "Are you allowed to move or cover up anything in my apartment?" "No, sir. We are not allowed to touch, move, rearrange, or cover up anything." "Thank you." Jeff put up every piece of male erotica he possessed, and he even bought some more. Posters, figurines, serious art, even a pile of magazines fanned out on the coffee table like some kind of doctor's office. Jeff called the rental office and warned them against bringing anyone into his apartment that was a child or squeamish about such subject matter. The rental office immediately sent over one of their maintenance men to confirm. Check and mate. And our last story. Are you threatening me? Say goodbye to your apartment and your kid. This particular story has just come to a head today, largely thanks to the persistently predictable actions of this story's antagonist, who we will call Jerk, because that's what he is. Around a year ago-ish, I moved into a new apartment. Not in a great part of the city, but could be considered about average. When I first moved in, I was assured everything would be rosy and I'd be left to my own devices. Enter Jerk. Jerk is, as his name suggests, a total piece of crap. He has shared custody of his son, which is frankly an oversight of the legal system, but hey. And he absolutely loves to get plastered and scream at the kid, either via phone or in person. The kid's around 13, I think, and his name's not totally important, mainly because the kid got enough grief. This went on for about 2 to 3 months, so I tried befriending Jerk, mostly because I'm an idiot, but also to find out what his issue was, because having headphones in on max volume listening to heavy metal and still being able to hear Jerk screaming was becoming an issue, to say the least. I put up with it for a bit, mentioning it in passing to who I guess is my building manager. He's really just a guy that's lived there for years and is mates with the landlord and he's retired, so can't really blame him for not wanting to get involved. He did mention that Jerk had lived there for about 5 years and had numerous complaints, including the previous tenant who moved out because she'd had enough of his bullcrap. He also mentioned that Jerk had shared custody because Jerk's ex-wife was also a bit of a twat. Like, seriously, that poor kid. But as such meant an absolute crapload of social workers were involved, even if they clearly weren't very good at their jobs. Anyways, one day Jerk was screaming at the top of his lungs again, and again, because I'm an idiot, I poked the ceiling with the broom, just a little tap to say, "Hey friend, just a quick polite note to tell you that the whole effing neighborhood can hear you," which was greeted by 5 thuds that sounded like Jerk was about to bunker bust clean through the ceiling. This naturally pissed me off, so I knocked on his door and he simply opened it and told me to F off. Fair enough, I thought, as I frankly had better crap to do, so I went for a walk. Upon return, Jerk is putting his Benz out and starts to give me grief, which I return in kind, causing him to square up to me and threaten to kill me. I held my ground and he started going on about respect and crap. LMAO. No, really. And told me he held all the cards and there was nothing I could do. Unfortunate, but I simply said, if that's how you want to be, then that's how it is, and left him to have his little bee fit outside. First call was to the police, who took it surprisingly seriously. They came out within an hour, and we sat in the Panda car and discussed all of Jerk's transgressions, a lot of which I had recorded, mainly to WhatsApp to my friends like, "Hey, D-Head is at it again." Then took a statement, and there was likely nothing they could do, but they might investigate Jerk on the count of the child abuse and the social worker in place. I then asked them if evidence would help, and they replied it'd save them a lot of time if I could get some, but it would need to be recent. Last 3 months, okay? Sure, they say. But 3 months is a long time and he might have changed. No, Mr. Policeman Officer. I mean covering the last 3 months. Excited he was, to say the least. So they brought me to the station to give a statement and to copy all the evidence off my phone. At this point, big shout out to old phones and removable SD cards, as I really didn't want to explain my meme collection. They spent the next 2, maybe 3 months investigating Jerk, as there's a lot of banging to be heard in the videos, which I can only assume is Jerk assuming his final Jerk form. Few months go by and I'm seeing a lot of "open immediately, do not ignore" type letters arriving in Jerk's name, which I think might be off the social workers, but not sure. I do feel particularly bad about this bit, as being a violently abusive alcoholic, he's not quite smart enough to realize it's me that's making his life suck. Because the social are on him like a skid mark on a toilet, and he's just screaming at his kid even more because he thinks the kid has grassed him up. Eventually, the police have everything in place and serve him with some sort of behavioral order or some crap like that, which frankly wasn't a whole lot, but that was more of an aperitif for the meal the social were about to make. Yesterday, armed with a bunch of evidence, a bunch of people, 2 uniformed officers, and my landlord, they arrived at his flat. Partly because that's the only time my landlord had free, and partly because Saturday pay for cops and social workers must be fairly decent. Also partly because he has his kid on weekends. Actually, probably the main reason now that I think about it. Since Jerk has the kind of voice that makes Brian Bless sound like a cross between a mime and a church mouse, they can hear everything immediately. They go up into the tight hallways, which is kind of funny because they're all trying to socially distance, so it looks like they're queuing up to give Jerk a bullocking. In true British fashion. It ended up with Jerk being led away in cuffs because, of course, he fought back, The guy's a F-tard. It's totally his nature. He's since come back today with a very defeated look on his face. Turns out the behavior order was a bit of a warning, and they'd been watching the house on and off all week, and they've heard some of the Dolby surround phone conversations and have now charged him with a bunch of crap I frankly don't understand. I'm not a cop, and I know mostly shite about all the law, except the ones I don't like, which has had and will have several knock-on effects. Firstly, no more contact with his kid. A minor victory since his mom is a bit of a C-word, but they're under a microscope now, so maybe that'll help. Secondly, my landlord was especially not chill about being contacted by both me and the police regarding Jerk, so he's using one of the charges or something to speed up the eviction process. This is annoyingly still going to take about 2 weeks, but I'm sure I'll live, meaning it's not the current 6-month COVID guidelines. Thirdly, he's going to have to go in tomorrow and tell his boss that he's going to need multiple dates off in the possible near future for court dates, etc. Oof, tough break in this economy. That's likely going to cost too, especially since I've seen a bunch of letters from the Provident arriving for him. For those outside the UK, the Provident is kind of like the OG version of those short-term loans with insane interest rates. If you're in the UK, give them a wide berth. All this could have been avoided had Jerk just not been, well, a jerk. At least in 2 weeks or so, I might have been able to get a decent night's sleep, if it's not ruined by a 2 a.m. ambulance, sirens, or that a-hole with 3-inch exhaust on his Civic. It might be time to move, actually. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.